Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming along for another lockdown quiz. I hope you've had a good week, or as good a week as can be expected. Rained a bit, didn't it, over the last few days? Didn't help, but it was nice and sunny down in London today, so I hope you had the sunshine wherever you are. We're ready to go with quiz number 6, which sort of shows how long we've been in this lockdown hell. I'll run through the rules and regulations, as I do every week, just in case there's the odd new player coming along this week. There are 10 rounds of 5 questions per round, 50 points on offer. Have a pen and paper ready just to note your answers. Keep them to yourself. And every 2 rounds, I'll give you the answers, mark your score, and let me know how you get on. You are competing against some lads from my Sunday League team who I do this quiz with on about a week or so earlier in advance. You're competing against them. So there's 50 points on offer for 50 questions. And the winner of last week's quiz was Banzai with 35 out of 50. It was a very good score last week. Banzai, second time he's won this quiz as well. So he's going well. Number 7 for the Heroes of Waterloo, free scoring midfielder, big Liverpool fan as well. And bringing up the rear was Hom, a Birmingham City fan. He had 19, so he got 19 out of 50. So somewhere in between that will sort of put you on the level of my Sunday League lads. That's what you're up against. If you are competing on your own, let me know. If there's a group of you who've got together as a sort of conglomerate, then that's good. But do, when you post your scores, let me know that there's more than one of you are playing, just so we know that there's scores are being collated together as a group of you. Now, after 4 rounds, we're going to have a drinks break. And after 6 rounds, there'll be a toilet break where we can have a bit of a chat and a natter about anything. Chunder, the Bristol Rovers fan and NHS worker, has been in touch in advance to request that this week's toilet chat is about memories of former grounds you've been to as a fan. So any away fans in particular said, if you've been to a ground that no longer exists, give us your memories of them after round 6. Other than that, there's not a lot to tell you before we crack on. Don't cheat, obviously. We've all got phones, we've all got the internet to hand, but we're looking for honesty in this one, and I know you're all honest, so that's good. Got to give a shout out to one absentee, a regular player this week, Jack Baxter, who is a big Spurs fan. He can't make it this week, unfortunately, but I said I'd give him a shout out. So we're ready to go, hopefully. Let's crack on then with round 1 of 10 rounds of this quiz number 6. Great to see loads of you messaging in already. Brilliant to see everyone. Round 1 is Europa League finals. So it's a recent memory bank that you have to call upon. I find the old fellas can't call upon their recent memory bank. It's more for the kids this round. But it's recent finals ever since the UEFA Cup became the Europa League. Round 1, question 1. What country was last year's final between Arsenal and Chelsea held in? What country was last year's final between Arsenal and Chelsea held in? Paul Berry describes his haircut as a bully cut. It is. And I forgot to mention the bully question. For new players, there is one of the 50 questions will be about Steve Bull, the greatest centre forward of all time. I banked on the football not kicking off for another few weeks. So I got the clippers out on the hair in the last week or so. Revealed a bit of a widow's peak, but anyway. It is what it is. Right, so that was question 1. What country was last year's final between Arsenal and Chelsea held in? Question 2. Who did Manchester United beat to win the 2017 final? Who did Manchester United beat to win the 27 Europa League final? Guy Wiseman went all the way to the Arsenal-Chelsea final last year. Poor guy. Question number 3. Which English club lost the 2010 final to Atletico Madrid? Stuart Silvers asks, where do you get your clippers, JP? I can't get them for love nor money. Got them in Boots, actually. Although they didn't have the full stock available. There was a lot of them had been sold out. And that was a few weeks ago as well, when I did the kids' haircuts. So, yeah, I think clippers are probably hard to come by. So which English club lost the 2010 final to Atletico Madrid? Question number 4. Which Spanish team won the competition 3 times in a row between 2014 and 2016? 2014 and 2016. Which Spanish team won it 3 times in a row? GT as God says Sainsbury's had Clippers in today, so maybe give Sainsbury's a shout, Stewie. And question number 5. Chelsea won last season's Europa League final 4-1 against Arsenal. Man of the match, Eden Hazard, scored 2 of the goals. Can you name any of the other goal scorers for Chelsea? Any of the Chelsea goal scorers from last year's final? Hazard got 2. I want either of the other 2 scorers. I did say it was a recent memory bank round, this one, round number 1. Keep the kids happy. There'll be some older stuff later on for the rest of us. Stuart Silvers says he now resembles George Berry. Must have given it a full shave. George Berry used to have a big afro, now a shaven mop. Right, so that's round number 1, Europa League finals. Let's move on to round number 2. And round number 2 is the letter S. The letter S. Darren Cockney Dow says, regarding the Clippers, get on Amazon. He said he ordered a pair of Remingtons today. So plenty of options by the looks of it to get older Clippers still in these lockdown times. Right, round number 2. Question number 1 for the letter S. All answers obviously begin with the letter S. Who was the leading goal scorer at the 1998 World Cup? Who was the leading goal scorer at the 1998 World Cup? Question number 2. Who played in 2 World Cups in the 1980s and shares his name with a Greek philosopher? Who played in 2 World Cups in the 1980s and shares his name with a Greek philosopher? Martin Evans says the missus is desperate to cut his hair, but he's not having any of it. Well, my wife did mine, and, well, judge for yourselves. I was quite pleased with it in the end. It's not her fault it's going down in those parts, is it? I was quite pleased with that. Right, question number 3. Which African team got to the quarterfinals of the 2002 World Cup? Which African team got to the 2002 quarterfinals? Bit World Cup heavy, this is the letter S. Accidentally, it must be said. Question number 4. Who scored Scotland's only goal at the 1986 World Cup finals? Who scored Scotland's only goal at the 1986 World Cup finals? And question number 5. Which English league side plays at Glanford Park? Which English league side plays at Glanford Park? It might come under the name of a sponsor these days. I'm not interested in sponsors, just the name of the ground. Crawford Miles wants to go back to car selling chat rather than hair chat. I think the hair chat's got everyone going, Crawford. We're going to have to live with hair chat for a while. Right. I'll give everyone a minute or 2 to just get your answers in shape, and then we'll go through we'll go through the answers, and then we'll get the scores in for the first 2 rounds. Remember, 35 is the winning score this week. Anything 18, 19 or above, you've done very well indeed. Don't worry if you don't score well at all. It's all about playing. That's what we're looking for. Stuart Silver says Glanford is in itself a sponsor, the name of the local council who part funded the ground. Okay, I stand corrected on that one. The name of Glanford Park for question 5. Crawf says question 2 on round 2. That was who played in 2 World Cups in the 1980s and shares his name with a Greek philosopher. Right, let's go through the answers then. Let's go through the answers for the first 2 rounds. Last year's Europa League final was in Azerbaijan, in the city of Baku. Manchester United beat Ajax in 2017. The English club who lost the 2010 final was Fulham. They lost to Atletico Madrid. Fulham lost to Atletico Madrid. The Spanish team who won the competition 3 times in a row was Sevilla. And the other 2 Chelsea scorers, so I only need one of them in last year's final, was Olivier Giroud or Pedro. You got Giroud or Pedro, that's fine for me. Andy Adams says, a point for Baku. Yes, I will give you a point for Baku, Andy. Did say country, though. Round number 2, the letter S. The 1998 World Cup leading scorer was Davor Šuker. Socrates was the 2 World Cups, shares his name with a philosopher, and as Richie Gillam rightly points out, he played 1 game in English non-league. That was for Garforth Town. Right, question number 3. Senegal reached the 2002 World Cup quarterfinals. The Scottish goal scorer in '86 was Gordon Strachan. And the English League side, which plays at Glanford Park, is Scunthorpe United. How did you get on? So after 2 rounds, the leading hero of Waterloo last week was, well, 3 lads, actually. There was Pinhead, Bands and Luke, all had 9 points each. So they scored well. And bringing up the rear was Hom, who had just 3 points. He got no points in the first round. He's probably around, he's a very senior player, so he wouldn't have done well in Europa League finals. Good scores coming in. Dave Watt was 7 out of 10. Guy Wiseman, 7 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for Joe Parker and James Kent on the £1 million drop team. That's brilliant. Cy Barlow with 9 out of 10. Brilliant to see Cy in the house. David and Caris Owen with 6 out of 10. Andy Adamson with 9. And Rob Harris with 10 out of 10. Kaz and Tommy with 6 out of 10. Dave Tandy with 5, Martin Evans 8, loads of good scores. Pete Carville with his team of 6, 10 out of 10. Brilliant scoring, everyone. Warren Asher is 10 out of 10. He's a good scorer in this quiz, is Warren. Are you playing on your own, Warren? Or is there a few of you? Let me know. Paul Berry, 9 out of 10. Martin Feehan with 7 and Chris with 4 from the London Wolves. And Iggy Neal, the Sky Blues double full house with 10 out of 10. Brilliant scoring. Farrell Monk, 10 out of 10, featuring Guy Barlow and Jake Murray as well. And Steph Pisharodi, 6 out of 10 for Dell. Oh, sorry, Dell's playing on Steph's login. Good to see Dell back this week. Brilliant stuff. Okay, great scores early on. Well done, everyone. Let's see how we get on with the next round. Round number 3 is cricket. Either you'll sigh or you'll be pleased. A lot of people on this message board are definitely big cricket fans. I know that. In fact, quite a few. I think I've watched cricket with overseas. But anyway, question number 1 of the cricket round. Which Lancashire second 11 cricketer went on to become a Premier League winner? Which Lancashire second 11 cricketer went on to become a Premier League winner? Paul Berry asked us if I've bought more of that wine. No, I'm on the last bottle of the pre-lockdown crate that I bought from, I say crate, it was just a box from Majestics. So I'll need to stock up there. Right, so the Lancashire second 11 cricketer, a Premier League winner in round question number 1. Question number 2, which league club did Ian Botham play for? Who did Ian Botham play for? He actually played for 2 clubs, football, but he only played for 1 football league club. The other was non-league. Question number 3. Which football league club played at the county ground between 1897 and 1994? So a football league club played at a ground called the County Ground, which was also a county championship venue. They played there between 1897 and 1994. What was that club? And the ground was called the County Ground. Question number 4. Name the only Premier League ground to host a test match. Name the only Premier League ground to host a test match. And the last question of the cricket round. He played for Crooktown in the Northern League, but is more famous for running out Ricky Ponting in the 2005 Ashes while fielding as 12th man. Who is he? So he played football. I think he was a midfielder. Pretty sure he was a midfielder for Crooktown in the Northern League, but he's more famous for running out Ricky Ponting in the 2005 Ashes while fielding at 12th man. Oh, Warren is playing with his 13-year-old son, Luke. That's good to know. Good to see a dads and lads combo. There's quite a few dads and lads combos playing this quiz. I know Crawford and Scott Miles play together. And I think Dell also plays with his lads sometimes. And Rob Goodliff as well. Definitely plays with his dad. I know that. Local to me. Question 3 again says Chris Johnson. Yeah, which football league club played at the County Ground between 1897 and 1994? And it was also a county championship venue. So the County Ground, it was doubled up as a county championship venue. Right, that's round number 3. Let's go on to round number 4 now. And round number 4 is called, oh, Matt Dobson's got a granddad, dad and lad combo. I'm loving that. Well done, Matt Dobson. 3 generations of Dobsons playing. Right, round number 4 is called Last Day of the Season. Last Day of the Season. And question number 1, James Thomas scored a hat-trick for which club on the last day of the 2002-2003 season to keep that club in the Football League before retiring to become an ambulance man? So James Thomas scored a hat-trick for who on the last day of the 02-03 season? It kept that club in the league, stopped them falling out of the league altogether. And then he actually retired and became an ambulance man. Might be a bit niche, that one. I could possibly give a clue to that if people are looking for it. There might be a clue up for grabs if people want it. It was a famous hat-trick, in fairness, in that neck of the woods. And the club has gone on to greater things, having saved its league status. Right, no clue, says Chris Johnson. Fair enough. He was first in. GT's God wants a clue, but Chris Johnson was adamant, no clue. I've got to go with the first one. First one who responds. Oh, a lot of people are asking for clues now. I don't know if I'm going to be bullied into giving a clue for that. We'll go back to that at the end of the round. Right, question number 2. Goalkeeper Jimmy Glass scored for Carlisle United in injury time to keep them in the Football League in 1999. Famous goal. He came up for a corner and scored from a corner to keep Carlisle in the, to keep Carlisle in the Football League. Who went down instead? Who went down instead in 1999? Right, question number 3. Sergio Aguero scored Manchester City's injury time winner against QPR to seal the Premier League title in 2011-12. But who got their other injury time goal? So the 2 injury time goals scored that day. Sergio Aguero got the winner, but who got City's equaliser against QPR, also an injury time on that last day of the season? Question number 4. Oldham beat Southampton 4-3 on the last day of the 92-93 season to stay up. But who scored a hat-trick for Southampton that day? So Oldham beat Saints 4-3 to stay up on the last day of the 92-93 season. Who scored a hat-trick for Southampton? And question number 5. Roy Hodgson masterminded an unlikely great escape for Fulham, secured with a last day 1-0 win at Portsmouth in 2008. Who scored the goal that day? Roy Hodgson masterminded an unlikely great escape for Fulham with a last day 1-0 win at Portsmouth in 2008. Who scored the goal for Fulham to keep them in the Premier League? So that's rounds 3 and 4. Give you a couple of moments and then we'll go through the scores. Right, let's do the scores for rounds 3 and 4. Sorry, the answers. The Lancashire second 11 cricketer who went on to become a Premier League winner was Phil Neville. Ian Botham played for Scunthorpe United. He also played for Yeovil, but they weren't in the league then. Northampton Town used to play at the county ground. I'm not 100% sure because I never went, but I'm sure it was a 3-sided ground as a football venue, and there was just a rope across the 4th side between to rope the football pitch off from the cricket square. I might be wrong on that. I never actually went, but I have a memory of that. The only Premier League ground to host a test match is Bramall Lane, Sheffield United, Bramall Lane. Dell says yes, it was a rope. Guy Wiseman wants points for Gary Neville. I think it's too early to give points for Gary Neville. I think you've got to get Phil there. Yeah, I think we've got to get Phil. If you're not scoring well later in the quiz, Guy, I'll give you a point for that. And question number 5. The Crooktown midfielder who ran out Ricky Ponting was Gary Pratt. Gary Pratt. So that's the cricket round. Last day of the season round, James Thomas scored the hat-trick for Swansea City. He kept them in the league, Swansea City. Jason Darby Chunder says the advertising boards separated the cricket square and the pitch. Jason will know, he's been to watch Bristol Rovers there on more than one occasion, I guess. Big away fan with the gas. So that was Swansea City. Number 2, the team that went down instead of Carlisle was Scarborough. Scarborough went down instead of Carlisle. I don't think they ever came back up. The other injury time goal scorer for Man City at that famous last day of the season was Edin Dzeko. Edin Dzeko. GT as God was at the test match and he got the answer wrong for Gary Pratt. Might have been at the bar though when that happened. The Southampton hat-trick was scored by Matt Letitia. Educated guess would have got you that. And the Fulham goal was scored by Danny Murphy. Danny Murphy. So the leading hero of Waterloo after 4 rounds was Luke on 15 points. Luke had 15 points, and bringing up the rear was Hom, a Birmingham City fan, on 5. 14 out of 20 for Paul Berry. Great score. Well in the chase for the top marks amongst the Sunday League lads. 12 out of 20 for Watty. Crawford and Scott on 16. Poor last round, says Martin Evans. 12 out of 20, still decent scoring, as is David and Caris Owen. Pete Carver was 17 out of 20, but team of 6 though. Andy Adams with 14. Steve Saul, 15 out of 20. Great score, Steve. Graham Elliott, 11. Good score, G. Andrew Assel with Skip, Baz and Glennie on 11. Neil McDonough, 11. Joe Parton, the Loughborough Wolves, 13 out of 20. Super Slow-Mo, 16. Great score. Stewie Silvers, 12. He said bloody Shearer for the Saints question. Had Shearer gone by then? Touch and go. Adrian Sanders is struggling on 9, but you're not struggling, Age. You're taking part. That's all that counts. Warren Ashurst, 19 out of 20. That's outrageous. Warren and his son. Ridiculous scoring. Matt Dobson, 19 as well. Would have been 20 had he not changed Danny Murphy to Clint Dempsey. The Dobson trilogy, grandson, granddad, and son on 19. Brilliant scoring. Steve Phillips, can you repeat rounds 3 and 4 because Ocado turned up? Oh, you'll have to watch it on catch-up, Steve. Ocado, they always come at the wrong time, don't they? Although as a regular player, you should know not to book your slot between 9 and 10 on a Tuesday night. Right, have a drinks break now. This is the drinks break sort of thing. Darren Cockney Dow is in and out because he's at work. We'll do round number 5 in a minute. Just top up your drinks if you want to top up your drink. 16 out of 20 from Rob Harris, a team of 4. Matthew Moore with 13 out of 20. Iggy Neal's team, 16 out of 20. Rob Goodliff with 16 out of 20. Great score for his team of 3. I know his dad gets involved there as well. Another 30 seconds and we'll get going. Right, let's get going with round number 5. And it's an old favourite. It's the return of shirt sponsors. It's the return of shirt sponsors. And question number 1. Which Yorkshire club were once sponsored by an entire shopping centre? The name of the shopping centre was Parkgate Retail World. Which Yorkshire club was once sponsored by an entire shopping centre? Never went there myself. Stephen McCann's father and son team, 11 out of 20. Good going, Stephen. Question number 2. Who sponsored Liverpool when they last won the league title? 30 years ago. This week, I think, or last week. I think it was 30 years ago this week. Maybe last week. 28th of April, 1990. That's when they last won it. Might be a while before they win it again, without opening up any cans of worms. Right, who sponsored Liverpool when they last won the title? Question number 3. Which championship club is currently sponsored by Ideal Boilers? Which championship club is currently sponsored by Ideal Boilers? That got them in hot water. I'm in my element with boilers gags. Sorry about that. Right, question number 4. Who sponsored Wimbledon when they won the FA Cup in 1988? Who sponsored Wimbledon when they won the FA Cup in 1988? Guy Wiseman rightly points out they've got a boiler as a mascot too. Boiler gag's not going down well either. Sorry about that. It's either that or singing. Right, and question number 5. Who are Chelsea's current sponsors? Who are Chelsea's current sponsors? I felt I went through that round a bit quickly. Let me know if you needed a minute or so to get your head around that. Do like a shirt sponsor round. They reran the Coventry FA Cup final at the weekend, the Coventry Spurs one. I'm sure Coventry had a really naff sponsor when they won the cup. Right, question 1 again, say a couple of people. Yes, which Yorkshire club was once sponsored by an entire shopping centre? The shopping centre was called Parkgate Retail World. They had it on their shirt, Parkgate Retail World. Right, let's go on to round number 6 before we have the toilet break. Granada Bingo, says Steve Saul for the Coventry sponsor. I think he's dead right. Yes, Matt Ivers backs him up. Granada Bingo. Imagine winning the FA Cup, keeping that shirt, framing it, and having Granada Bingo in big letters across the front. Yeah, not the best. Thanks, Steve and Matt. Oh, Stuart Silver's wants question number 4 again. Yes, Stu. Who sponsored Wimbledon when they won the 1988 FA Cup? Who sponsored Wimbledon when they won the 1988 FA Cup? Matt Ivers has the Granada Bingo shirt. was a good shirt. But it was a red sponsor, wasn't it? So, again, team in blue with red, it doesn't work that. Right, Neil Simpson, question number 2 again. Yes. Who sponsored Liverpool when they last won the league title? Who sponsored Liverpool when they last won the league title? Right, round number 6 now. Round number 6 is the M62 Corridor. The M62 Corridor, big northern bias this week. Sorry for any southern players. And the M62 Corridor, if you are a southerner and need help with your geography, runs from Liverpool to Hull. So it's teams along that corridor. Right, and question number 1. Name the management duo of brothers currently in charge of Huddersfield Town. I'll take just a surname. You don't have to get their first names. The management duo in charge of Huddersfield Town. Question number 2. Which club left Boothbury Park in 2002? Which club left Boothbury Park in 2002? Question number 3, it's a multiple choice question, so you've got options here. Halifax Town made money during the big freeze of 1962-63 by turning parts of their ground, the Shea Stadium, into what? So the big freeze of 62-63, football was wiped out for about 3 months. What did Halifax Town do in quite an enterprising way to make money? Was it 1, a toboggan run around the dog track? 2, a ski slope down the terrace? 3, an ice rink on the pitch? Or 4, a sponsored world record attempt at the biggest snowman? Okay, 4 options. I'll run through the 4 options again for Halifax Town. A toboggan run around the dog track, a ski slope down the terrace, an ice rink on the pitch, or a sponsored snowman attempt. Question number 4. Who is the Oldham Athletic striker who scored 6 goals in a League Cup match against Scarborough in 1989, which is still a tournament record? The most goals ever scored in a single game in the League Cup was by an Oldham striker against Scarborough in 1989. It was on the plastic pitch as well. Who was he? And question number 5, the last question of the M62 Corridor round. What's the name of the club that plays at Spotland? Who plays at Spotland? So just a minute. We'll go through the answers for rounds 5 and 6, mark them off, and we'll go from there. Question 3 again, says Graham Elliott. Yes, Halifax Town made money during the big freeze by doing one of 4 things. Did they have a toboggan run around the dog track, a ski slope down the terrace, an ice rink on the pitch, or run a world's biggest snowman attempt? Dave Watts scored an own goal on the plastic pitch at Oldham. Happy days. Own goals are still goals, said Black Betty. Black Betty's also put some answers down. Don't put answers on the message board. Answers, write notes down. They're not actually the right answers, but anyway, write your answers down. Don't put them on here. And then we'll go through them. Right, let's go through the answers anyway. Round number 5, shirt sponsors. Rotherham United, Parkgate Retail World, Rotherham United. Liverpool was sponsored by Candy when they won their last league title. Ideal Boilers sponsor West Bromwich Albion. Dave Watt miscued a clearance from a corner for his own goal at Oldham. And he was hauled off at half time, which is very harsh. Very unfair to pick on the lad who scores an own goal. Right, question number 4. Wimbledon sponsors when they won the 88 FA Cup were Carlsberg. And question number 5, Chelsea's current sponsor is Yokohama Tires. Yokohama Tires. Round number 6, the M62 Corridor round. The management duo at Huddersfield are Danny and Nicky Cowley. I'd accept Cowley. Question 2, Hull City left Boothbury Park, so it's Hull City. Question number 3, Halifax, with their enterprising move, made an ice rink of the pitch. They made an ice rink on the pitch and charged the general public to come in and skate round. Frankie Bunn was the Oldham striker. Frankie Bunn. And question 5, Rochdale's play at Spotland. Rochdale play at Spotland. So, after 6 rounds, the leading hero of Waterloo was Chris Ivy on 20. He does play with his son. Big age range between the two of them. I think his son's 14 or 15 and he's about 50. So he was the leading scorer, 20 out of 30. Bringing up the rear was Hom on 10. So how are you getting on? 21 out of 30 for Dave. What brilliant score. Crawf and Scott Miles are on fire with 24. Paul Berry, 21 on 30. I think Paul and Dave Watt were at school together, Wolverhampton Grammar Boys. GT is God, 22 out of 30. Chris Johnson, the Daydream Believers Collective, 4 of them on 25 out of 30. Trappers on 22. Rob Goodliff on 22. Dave and Carasone on 19. Great scores. Cy Barlow, 21. Great scores, these. Martin Evans, 18. Joe Partons for the Partons. They have a massive disagreement about the Halifax ice rink. Yeah, let me know. It was an ice rink, but do let me know if you have any more info. This is a toilet break, so we're not going to do anything for a minute or so. Warren Asher's played a school cup final at the Shea, and he skidded onto the dog track, which hurt. If you've got any stories of former football grounds that you want to get in touch with, on Chunder's suggestion, feel free, or crack on with the debates that have been raging already today. Namely, where can you buy clippers in these lockdown times? Oh, sorry, Joe Parton says there was a big disagreement in his collective about what the answer was to that Halifax Town question. It sounds like you went for the wrong answer as well, Joe. Dave Tandy, big Swindon fan on 13. Elm Park, says Chris Johnson of Daydream Believers Collective. He's never been as cold at a game in my life. Stood on the away end at 0-0. I think that Elm Park away end was uncovered as well, wasn't it? Chris Johnson's a Barnsley fan and he's got the cheek to complain about being cold at another ground. That away terrace at Oakwell is something else if you get it at the wrong time of year. Richie Gillen went to a great game at Sealand Road. Chester 2, Tranmere 4. Clayton and Clark were on fire for Tranmere. I do miss Sealand Road. I think Chester may have sold some of the roof to Port Vale when they left Sealand Road. Guy Wiseman has fond memories of bouncing up and down singing EIO with the Borough fans in the Holgate Ayresome Park. Neil Simpson says the Cuckoo Lane Terrace at Oxford United's old ground. This is good. Chunder was the man who wanted to hear people's opinions of old football grounds, and there's plenty coming in. Loads coming in already. Wolves had to borrow Oxford United shorts once at the Manor Ground. That is correct. I seem to remember that. They turned up with the wrong shorts. Adrian Sanders, Springfield Park, Wigan, classy. I think the away end there, I mean, Adelno was just a slope, a grass slope from memory. I don't think they even bothered with a terrace. Paul Berry says standing next to a supermarket at Burndon Park was always a pleasure, especially when losing a playoff semi-final. Yeah, a grim night for Wolves fans. David and Caris Owen have fond memories of doing the Ayatollah at the Shea. That was when, yeah, we went to watch Cardiff City play away at Halifax Town once when we were at uni. We all did the Ayatollah at the Shea. Or was it at Huddersfield's Leeds Road? You might be at confusion your Yorkshire grounds there, Dave. The old away terrace at Goodison Park, where you're on pitch level, but Goodison Park still exists. GT is God. Some would say it shouldn't. I think it should. It's a great ground. Neil Simpson says a great slope at Wigan, and Heinz soup was also available to buy. Stuart Silver says Springfield Park is the hardest ground in the country to find. I wonder what constitutes hard to find. I suppose you haven't. I suppose it's your first visit to it. Definitely the Shea, says Dave. Owen, the goal scorer was Phil Stanton. Yeah, I stand. I'd definitely bow to Dave Owen's superior knowledge of watching Cardiff City away matches in the early 90s. Neil Simpson says Roker Park on a Tuesday night for a boring 0-0. Do miss Roker Park. Paul Keith says Stoke always has a cutting wind. I like that. I like that description of wind as cutting. Right. Unless there's any more. Oh, here we go. Andy Adamson took Mike, his brother, to his first away game at Main Road. They lost 5-0. Andy and Mike, big Evertonians. It was December, and the City fans sang, "You should have gone Christmas shopping." Yeah, that would have been a grim trip. But Main Road was a great ground. Right, what have we done? We've done rounds 1 to 6. Let's go on to round number 7. Round number 7 is alliteration. So the names start and two word answers starting and with the same letter. So, for example, if I said who was the former Southend striker of the 80s and 90s, it's Andy Answer, AA. So it's alliteration this round. Stuart Silver says Springfield Park, right at the end of a load of back streets, and you always accidentally followed the floodlights to Wigan Rugby League in a town centre. I think he's dead right there. I'm sure I've once headed to Springfield Park and ended up at Central Park instead. Right, let's get on with round 7, alliteration. And question number 1, who is Newcastle's Argentinian centre-half? Who is Newcastle United's Argentinian centre-half? Current, that should be said, current centre-half. Question number 2, who was Plymouth's prolific striker of the late 1980s, scoring 126 goals for them, having begun his career as a Liverpool apprentice? So fans of lower division clubs have got a massive advantage here. Old fans of lower division clubs. He was a lower division legend. Who was he for Plymouth? Question number 3. So name this player from the 3 clubs he's played for. Name this player from the 3 clubs he's played for in order. Manchester United, Juventus, Manchester United. Manchester United, Juventus, Manchester United. Question number 4. Who scored for non-league Stevenage against Newcastle United in the FA Cup in 1998? Very famous FA Cup goal. Non-league Stevenage got a draw against Newcastle, who I think were about a top 3 team in those days, in the FA Cup in 1998. I think Kenny Dalglish might have been managing Newcastle, not sure. Who scored for Stevenage that day? And question number 5, who did Chelsea sign from Reading in 2007? Who did Chelsea sign from Reading in 2007? Give you 30 seconds to go through them and go on to the next round. Can you repeat question 2, says Caroline Smith. Question 2, yeah. Who was Plymouth's prolific striker of the late 1980s? He scored 126 goals, having begun his career as a Liverpool apprentice. Graham Elliott wants question 1. Yes, who is Newcastle United's current Argentinian centre-half? So the first name and the second name all begin with the same letter in this. Question 4 again. Who scored for non-league Stevenage against Newcastle in the FA Cup in 1998? And question 1 again. Who is Newcastle's Argentinian centre-half? Okay, round number 8. Round number 8. And round number 8 is central defenders. Central defenders. Can you name me both centre-halves when Leicester City won the title in 2015-16? So their first choice centre-halves when they won the title in 2015-16. And I'm afraid you need both to get a point. It was a famous title win, the greatest title win of all time. So you need to get both of them there. Question 2 is also a partnership. Who were Manchester United's centre-backs in the 1999 Champions League final? So the famous United treble winners, who were their centre-halves in the final? Paul Berry says dropping the Steve Bull question into this round is going to be interesting. Yeah, it might not be appearing. I think you're quite right, Bez. Might not be appearing in the centre-halves round. Question 3. Which Sheffield Wednesday centre-half filled in as a striker during an injury crisis in 1993, scored 12 goals in as many games, and was called up by Graham Taylor to the England squad as a striker? One of my favourite stories in football, this. There's a centre-half playing for Sheffield Wednesday. They had a massive injury crisis in 1993, and he went up front. He scored 12 in 12. It was so good. He was virtually unplayable that Graham Taylor called him up for England. Who was he? Question number 4. Which centre-half did Zinedine Zidane headbutt in the 2006 World Cup final? Who did Zinedine Zidane headbutt in the 2006 World Cup final? He was sent off, obviously. But he didn't headbutt him in the head. He headbutted him in the chest, didn't he? Oh, Bez thought we had to get Bully into this round. No, there's more rounds. There's 10 rounds, Bez. Your pain continues. We're dragging this one out into the small hours. And question number 5. I know there's Coventry fans in the house. Who was the Coventry captain when they won the 1987 FA Cup final? This was actually written before ITV, before it was shown on ITV at the weekend. So if you watched the repeat, you'll probably get this. Who was Coventry's captain when they won the 1987 FA Cup final? That's the central defenders round. I'll give you another minute or so to get the answers, and then we'll go through rounds 7 and 8 and tot up. Question 3 says Graham. Yes. Who was the Sheffield Wednesday centre-half who filled in as a striker during an injury crisis in 1993? So the year's crucial. 1993, that's your era. And he scored 12 goals in 12 games as a striker and got called up for England as a striker. Stephen McCann says Coventry were the last Midlands club to win the FA Cup. proud boast. Right, you should shout about that. It was a great, one of the great finals, that, and a very lovable Coventry City team. They're just full of great characters, and you still see them now. They still go and watch Coventry. Lots of them. Mickey Ginn, Steve Grizovic, who worked for them for years. David Phillips. Oh, loads of just top fellas played for Coventry City, didn't they? Luke Ashurst, Warren's son, says Coventry were the last team in stripes to win the FA Cup. Can't verify that, but you're probably right. I think you're probably right. Newcastle made a couple of finals, didn't they? But didn't even look like winning either of them. Right, let's go through the answers. Right, the alliteration round. Newcastle's Argentinian centre-half is Federico Fernandez. Plymouth's prolific striker is Tommy Tynan. Tommy Tynan, great lower league goal scorer. Great goal scorer on CFAX, very much like Steve Bull. Tommy Tynan's name always used to appear on CFAX. Name this player from his 3 clubs: Man United, Juventus, Man United. Paul Pogba, obviously. Steve Saul says, weren't Wigan in stripes? And I think he's probably going to be right there. Or did they play in black in their away kit? I'll let Stephen Warren discuss that on the message board. Did Wigan win in stripes? I think he might be right. Anyway, question 4, the non-league striker, Giuliano Grazioli for Stevenage. Giuliano Grazioli. And question number 5, who did Chelsea sign from Reading in 2007? It was Steve Sidwell. The consensus is that Wigan wore black in that game. Right, round number 8, central defenders. So the Leicester centre-half pairing were Wes Morgan and Robert Huth. A couple of years before they won it, I saw Wes Morgan play for Nottingham Forest, and they lost 5-2 at home to Yeovil in the playoffs in League One, nowhere near the Premier League, and he was appalling. I remember thinking, what an appalling player he was, thinking he shouldn't even be playing league football, and look what happened to him. Fair play to Wes Morgan. What a career he's had. Wes Morgan and Robert Huth. Question 2, the Man United centre-halves were Ronnie Johnson and Jaap Stam. Johnson and Stam. Richie Gillam says Sidwell scored Wigan's winner in the cup. No, it was a ginger, though. But I don't think it was Sidwell. Ben Watson. I think it was Ben Watson. As very much as ginger as Sidwell, though. Not as ginger as Dave Kitson, though, who I think is the most ginger footballer ever. Right. Question number 3, the Sheffield Wednesday centre-half. It was one of my favourite players ever, Paul Warhurst. Paul Warhurst. Really good player. Got to 2 cup finals that year, Sheffield Wednesday. Warhurst played a big part in getting them there. Then I think he fell out with Trevor Francis, the Sheffield Wednesday manager, and it all went a bit pear-shaped. And he got injured when he was called up for England as well, so he never actually even played for England. Zinedine Zidane headbutted Marco Materazzi. And the Coventry City captain, an all-round good egg, was Brian Kilcline, Killer Kilcline. Right, so that's 8 rounds done. And the leading hero of Waterloo at this stage, after 8 rounds, was Luke and Chris Ivey, who had 27 out of 40. 27 out of 40. And bringing up the rear at the bottom was Hom, the Birmingham City fan, on 13 out of 40. David Hopkin was very ginger, says Andy Adamson. That's dead right. He was. A lot of good ginger footballers kicking around. Dave Watt, 30 out of 40. Paul Berry, 29 out of 40. Rob Goodliff, 30 out of 40. Aid Sanders, 22. Cy Barlow, 29 out of 40. Great scoring. Neil Simpson and Luke on 28. Matthew Moore, 28. Guy Barlow with Farrell Monk and Jake Murray on 32. Brilliant. Steve Saul, 32. Brilliant. Graham, 21. Very good. Farrell, 32. Scores whizzing through. Nat Dobson, Team Dobson, 3 generations, 36 out of 40. Brilliant. Warren Ashurst, always need at least one ginger to win the league. Warren, a very good ginger centre-half, I used to play with up in Leeds a long time ago. Steve Phillips, 15 out of 40, plus 4 for the Ocado delivery driver. Yeah, definitely add on 4 for the Ocado delivery, Steve. Good point. Did David May come on in the 1999 final, says Super Slow-Mo? He didn't, unless you're being sarcastic, because he was front centre of every bloody photo, wasn't he? David May, but he wasn't even, I don't even think he even came on. I think he was squad player at best. Robbie Slater, another ginger, says West Ham blog. King of the gingers, though, Richie Gillam quite rightly points out, is Alan Ball. Alan Ball, what a player. And Guy Wiseman is on 21, and we're giving him the extra point for Gary Neville, even though that's the wrong answer. So you can make 22 there, Guy. Right, 2 rounds to go. You need 35 for a winning Heroes of Waterloo score, but whatever score you get's great. Perry Groves, another ginger. Nick Watkins is playing against Ramman tonight, and he's beating him 25-13. That is comprehensive, Nick. Well done. Neil McDonald put David May as well. I think David May has fooled a few people by just getting himself on the winning team photo, hijacking it more than John Terry. Right, round number 9 is fouls. Round number 9 is fouls. And question number 1. Simon Barlow says David May started the FA Cup final in 1999, so that might have thrown a few of you. David Fairclough, another ginger, keeping the ginger theme. Can we have a round on gingers next week, says Caroline. Well, do you know what? We will have a round on gingers. We can't do it next week because I've already done next week's quiz with my Sunday League team, quiz number 7. That's done and dusted. But quiz number 8 will be a round on gingers. Great point. Yeah, I like that. There's a lot of good ginger footballers. Okay, so let's get around to this, back to this one anyway. Fouls. I've been distracted. Question 1. Who did Roy Keane foul in the Manchester derby in 2001, causing a knee injury that ultimately led to this player's retirement? Who did Roy Keane foul in the Manchester derby in 2001, causing a knee injury that ultimately led to this player's retirement? Question number 2. Whose foul gave away an 89th minute penalty to give Romania victory and knock England out of Euro 2000? So England were going through from the group stages in Euro 2000 until an 89th minute penalty was conceded, giving Romania a 3-2 win, and England went out. I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a multiple choice for this. So the player who committed the foul to send Kevin Keegan's England back home, was it Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Martin Keown, or Nicky Barmby? Chris's missus says Mark Wright. So Jill says Mark Wright was ginger. He was. I wouldn't not a striking ginger, more fairy strawberry blonde. Guy Wiseman points out, I think we saw you before this game in Charleroi. You did indeed. I went to every game of that Euros, and England didn't get very far. Every England game, I should say. Right, whose foul gave away the 89th minute penalty at Euro 2000 against Romania? Multiple choice. It's Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Martin Keown, or Nicky Barmby. Stewie Silvers was at the game as well. He was. I think we got a train down from Amsterdam that day, Stewie, to Charleroi. Right, question 3. Who did Gaza take out in the 1991 FA Cup final against Nottingham Forest, rupturing his own knee ligaments and putting himself out for a year? Who did Gaza take out with a terrible tackle in the 1991 FA Cup final, which resulted in him rupturing his knee ligaments and putting him out for a year and jeopardizing his move to Lazio? Question number 4, and another multiple choice. Who is the most fouled player of the Premier League season so far? I say so far, they're going to call it a day, aren't they? Well, it's looking that way. All the Premier League doctors complained today that it can't finish the season or shouldn't finish the season. So who is the most fouled Premier League player of the 2019-20 season? Here's your four options: Adama Traore, Wilfried Zaha, Jack Grealish, or Richarlison. There you four. The most fouled Premier League player this season. Is it Traore, Zaha, Grealish, or Richarlison? And the last question of the fouls round, it's a long-winded question, but bear with me. At the 1982 World Cup semi-final, West German goalkeeper Harald Schumacher knocked out which French player, causing him to lose 3 teeth, suffer a cracked vertebra, and lose consciousness, yet the referee did not give a foul. The referee did not give a foul. But the 1982 World Cup semi-final, the West German keeper Harald Schumacher knocked out which French player, causing him to lose 3 teeth, suffer a cracked vertebra, and lose consciousness. But the referee didn't give a foul. Who was the French player? Surname only is fine. If you get the first name, great. So that's the fouls round. If you want me to repeat questions, Stewie Silvers does, yes. Who did Roy Keane foul in the Manchester derby of 2001, causing a knee injury that led to this player's retirement ultimately? Carl Falconer wants question 3 again. Yeah, Carl. Who did Gaza foul in the 1991 FA Cup final, but it ruptured his own knee ligaments and put him out for over a year? I'll give the answers after the fouls round so we can build up a bit of tension going into round number 10. See how you're doing. So I'll give you a second there, just a second or two. Matthew Moore wants 3 again. Who did Gaza take out in the 1991 FA Cup final against Nottingham Forest, and he ruptured his own knee ligaments committing this foul? Okay, let's do the answers. Let's do the answers for fouls. So Roy Keane in the Manchester derby ended Alf Inge Haaland's career. I think he did play a couple more games, but not many. Alf Inge Haaland. It was retribution for an incident when Haaland played for Leeds. The player who gave away the England penalty was Phil Neville. Phil Neville featuring twice in this quiz. Question number 3, Gaza fouled Gary Charles. Gary Charles. The most fouled Premier League player this season is Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish. And question number 5, the French player knocked out by Harald Schumacher was Patrick Battiston. Patrick Battiston. So give me your scores. After 9 rounds, the leading Sunday League player had 31 points. There were 3 of them. Ivy, Bands, and Luke all had 31 points last week. And Hom was bringing up the rear on 15. Let me know how you're getting on. And we're going into the final round now. The final round. 35 out of 45 for Dave Watt. He's already won it. Paul Berry, 34. He only needs 1 more point. Aid Sanders, 27. Super Slomo, 35. Matthew Moore, 33. Great scores. Everyone's scoring really well here. Caroline Smith, 23. Stewie Silver's 31. Everyone is scoring above the bar mark for the heroes, which was 15. Anyone 15 or above, you're doing brilliantly. Rob Harris, 38 out of 45. On for a record lockdown score with his group. This is brilliant. Glad you're keeping in. Good looking Honky, 29 out of 41. 41. Play, missed 4 questions on the way. 23 out of 45 for DW on fire. Neil McDonough. Now, Warren Ashurst, with a round to go has opened up a massive can of worms here. He heard Schumacher was best man at Batiston's wedding. We haven't got time to go into that, but maybe next week. If Harold Schumacher was best man at Patrick Batiston's wedding, that really does complete the story. And he's got 42 out of 45, playing with his sons, so more than one there. Dave Marland, 18 out of 45, still a good score. And Stephen McCairn's, George and Steve on 27 out of 45. Okay, so let's go into the last round of quiz number 6. And the last round is England World Cup wildcards. England's World Cup wildcards. Steve Phillips says Batiston's Phoenix from the Flames was a classic. I think I can remember that, yeah. Phoenix from the Flames from fantasy football. The Batiston was a good one. I think Batiston was a good sport from memory. Or am I thinking of another French player? Might have been another French player, Steve. Let's not open up a Vasily Rats debate with just one round to go. Anyway, let's go. Round number 10, England World Cup wildcards. 5 questions to finish this quiz. Who was the uncapped defender Gareth Southgate selected for the 2018 World Cup? Who was the uncapped defender Gareth Southgate selected for 2018? Question number 2. Which second division striker did Bobby Robson take to Italia 90? Which second division striker did Bobby Robson take to Italia 90? Question number 3. Who was the Brighton defender with just 2 caps that Ron Greenwood took to the 1982 World Cup? The Brighton defender with just 2 caps that Ron Greenwood took to the 82 World Cup. There's a clue on offer for this. If everyone's struggling, with the Brighton defender, I can give a clue. It's weighted in front of the older players, this one. Although, in fairness, the 2018 World Cup was weighted to the younger players. So no clue. Yeah, no clue, say, 2 players straight away. So there's no clue for that. Who was the Brighton defender? Right. Super slow-mo. Schumacher turned up to Batiston's wedding to apologise, but either the apology was not accepted or he was not accepted into the wedding. Okay, that clears that up. Well, it doesn't. It adds another layer to the story. Okay, cool. God, the things you learn doing this quiz. Right, question 4. Roy Hodgson selected 3 Southampton players for the 2014 World Cup. Luke Shaw, Adam Lallana, and who else? So Roy Hodgson selected 3 Southampton players for the 2014 World Cup. Luke Shaw, Adam Lallana, and who else? And the last question of quiz number 6. Which teenager did Sven-Göran Eriksson select for the 2006 World Cup who had not played a Premier League match? Which teenager did Sven-Göran Eriksson select for the 2006 World Cup who had not played a Premier League match? Give you 30 seconds or so to get your answers for them. Question 3, again, yes, no problem. Who was the Brighton defender with just 2 caps that Ron Greenwood took to the 1982 World Cup? Brighton defender with just 2 caps, Ron Greenwood selected for England at the 82 World Cup. Question number 1 again, yes, who was the uncapped defender that Gareth Southgate selected for the 2018 World Cup squad? Who was the uncapped defender Gareth Southgate selected? Steve Saw, question 5. Which teenager did Sven-Göran Eriksson take to the 2006 World Cup who hadn't played a single Premier League game? He was a Premier League player, but he'd not played for his club, not played a Premier League game. Okay, let's do it then. Round number 10. So the uncapped defender selected by Gareth Southgate was Trent Alexander-Arnold. The second division striker called up by Bobby Robson was, of course, Steve Bull, the greatest centre forward the world has ever seen. The Brighton defender called up by Ron Greenwood, who had just 2 caps, was Steve Foster. Used to wear a headband, bit of a perm as well. Steve Foster was called up for the 82 World Cup. The 3 Southampton players, I gave you 2 of them, Luke Shaw and Adam Lallana. Ricky Lambert, the third player, Ricky Lambert. Steve Phillips with a good question 2 and 3 link. Steve Bull scored his last goal before going to Italia 90 against an Oxford side featuring Steve Foster. There you go. And the answer to question number 50, Sven Göran Eriksson took Theo Walcott to the 06 World Cup. So how did you get on? 35 wins you the non-existent prize for beating my Sunday League club. If you got 19, you're within the points range. But if you played, I'm just so happy to have you along and getting involved, because it's the more the merrier. Graham Elliott, 29 out of 50. Stuart Silver's 40. Brilliant score. Likewise, Paul Berry, 38. Joe Parton with his boys, 31. Great scores. Watty, 38. This is brilliant. GT as God. Was Forster not at Southampton as well? Not sure Forster went to 2014 World Cup. Maybe wrong. If so, my bad. Career best for the Daydream Believers with 42 out of 50. 40 out of 50, and for Super Slow-Mo, who thinks Warren Ashurst needs a handicap. Warren scores well. I missed his score this time going up there, but he scores well. 46 out of 50. He scores really well, Warren. He knows his onions. He works in the industry. The football journalist, he knows his onions. And a lot of those were his era, he says. Nick Watkins, 31. Ramman, 18. Big win for Nick. Well done. Kiss, kiss, bang, bang. Good to see 2 people playing against each other rather than forming a collective as well. That's great. Iggy with 40. Brilliant, Iggy. 29 for Martin Evans. 22 for Dave Marland. 28 for Mark Feehan. And 30 for Chris. He's done me again. They're good scores, lads. The London Wolves boys. Steve Saul, 39 out of 50. And his wife got 2 of them. Brilliant. Rob Harris, better than level 42 with 43 out of 50. That's brilliant. And a semi-Alan Partridge reference, which we love on this. Forster was at Celtic, says Steve Saul, coming to my rescue in the end of that. Neil Smith with 34. Brilliant, Neil. Great stuff. Farrell Monk, 41 with him, Guy and Jake. This is brilliant. Guy Wiseman, good debut for Shagger, whoever he is. Well done. Top work. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone, for playing. I really appreciate it. It's great to have you involved. We've got a good core audience every week, and it's always brilliant to see you popping up on the message board. And I have great fun doing this as well. So on that note, we'll see you next week. Quiz number 7's already been done. I'm working on quiz number 8 as well for my Sunday League lot. So there'll definitely be 7 and 8. How much longer we're in lockdown, who knows? Before we go, Super Slow-Mo says Schumacher travelled to Metz on the day before Battiston's wedding and presented him with an FC Cone pennant and an apology. That's interesting. So there you go. Loads of good stats coming in as well. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone, for playing, and we'll see you next week.